This is Forbidden Speech, the raw truth, with your host, Christina Rivera. In this savvy broadcasting series, we delve into hot topics affecting us all. With cancel culture and big tech censoring any opposing ideas and thoughts outside of mainstream ideology, it has become more important than ever that we tell the raw truth about everything from U.S. world politics, COVID, Christianity, and everything in between. We invite all points of view to come and share their perspective honestly and respectfully. Hi, Emily. Welcome to Savvy Broadcast's latest series, Forbidden Speech. I'm so grateful to have you here today. We're going to talk about the dark side of PR, public relations. And I've worked, I think it's kind of funny. I'm like, I never thought there was a dark side to it, but share with the audience, because you work for a public relations firm that you and your husband started, our public relations firm. And so you've worked in this industry for quite some time, but share a little bit about your background before we get started.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's great to be here. And yes, so my husband and I both have different parts of our firm. He handles all of our tech and business clients, and I handle all of the fun, flavorful lifestyle clients. He has more of the entrepreneurial background, and his former business partner was a YouTube famous guy. So he worked in media, like kind of building up the brand and reputation management. And then I've been in journalism and then ventured into PR. And so we both kind of look at things from different angles. If you met us in person, I would be chatting and he would be kind of sitting absorbing. And so we kind of have this yin yang approach, but that's a bit about us. We work with lots of wonderful different types of industries and people. And that's a snippet.
It's funny. You and your husband remind me of me and my husband, because I'm the chatty one. My husband's the really quiet, introspective, getting all the information in. But I love that, because that way you're able to look at things at different angles and get a full picture, a fuller picture. But I don't think a lot of people understand what exactly is public relations. What do you do for your clients? What does it look like when you come in to work on public relations with a client?
A lot of people don't understand or realize. We could spend a whole episode just talking about that, but to give you like a quick idea, public relations is really mainly working within media to help businesses and media come together. So a business has something that they're offering, or a product, or a good deed, or something valuable to society, ideally, and they're bringing that to a media source and outlet, and the publicist or PR company is helping facilitate that relationship and managing the messages. So that's more of like, I think, the everyday PR. Then there's like Beyonce's publicists, or as we've seen in the media recently, Will Smith and Chris Rock's publicists. And like, so when something happens with a celebrity, there's like that type of publicist that works more of like the specific personality and managing how they're best represented and what photos are approved and that kind of thing. We work with small businesses. I'm not Beyonce's publicist yet. I would love to be someday. So just putting that out there.
Yeah. You never know who's listening and who knows who. But, it's so true, because really it's your public image that you help people get out there in a way that helps businesses. Because people don't realize, I remember this one person came to me, and I don't do public relations, but she had come to me and she was a business, and I saw her Facebook page and she had some questionable pictures and stuff going on in some of her social media. And she's like, well, that's personal. I'm like, no. Nothing's personal, because the name of her brand had her name in it. So they'll go to your Facebook page, fall into your what you think is your private Facebook page, and it doesn't get deleted off of social media either. People think, well, I'll just delete it. And what goes on the internet does not just go off into the abyss. It can, shadow you years later and come back to haunt you.
Yes, exactly. And anything these days anybody can find about you.
Yeah.
So I think no matter how hard people try to hide behind the green curtain, the Wizard of Oz is going to be found at this point. There's just so much on the internet that all of our information. And so, I think like to your point, it's making sure that you're best representing yourself and your business and your brand, whether it be a personal brand and you're an influencer, or whether it be you're a full-blown brick and mortar business or an online or e-commerce business, like whatever your type and style is. If it's not working with a publicist, it's working with a brand manager or a brand company, ideally. Something, if that's not something that you're good at personally, hire a professional to help, because it makes the world of difference. Like one post, as we have seen with bigger celebrities or bigger outlets, we've seen the damage of being canceled in minutes. Something that you say that is just not savory or thoughtful. And so ideally that you have somebody helping you with just the everyday stuff. I mean, it doesn't need to be big topics. It can be everyday stuff and best representing yourself.
Well, because you'll think I'll put out something out there on social media and you'll have an intention inside of what you think this means, but how it comes across to the public could be a totally different meaning of what you're thinking you're putting out there. Now, the title of our episode today is The Dark Side of Public Relations, Understanding the Spin. Now, some people don't understand. What's spin, actually? What exactly is going on when there's a spin?
So when we think of a spin as a public relations firm or as a publicist, we think of, here is something that, I'll give a good example. So a business is closing and they have a new ownership. They'll come to us and say, okay, so we're closing our doors, but we have a new owner. We don't want everyone to think that we're closed. So a publicist will spin the message to say something like, meet, Chef Charles, he's going to be the new chef and face of this business. So instead of using a word like closing, which could immediately, once you have that on the internet, that's very hard to repair. A publicist would then come in and say, okay, this is how we're going to reshape the message, reformulate it, spin it, weave it into a palatable, approachable way of the public understanding. So it doesn't matter if your audience size is 100 or 100,000, those 100 people might be more engaged than the 100,000. You want to make sure that any sort of message, whether it's something changing or something coming or going or whatever it is, that your spin is best represented. So that's what we define as a spin.
I like that you said weave the story. You're putting it together. And I remember my very first business was a financial consulting firm. And the way I put forth my messaging at first was, let us help you with your hemorrhaging AR. And I remember a guy telling me that was into PR and branding. He's like, oh, no. Hemorrhaging gives all sorts of not good connotation. Could you please change that word and get rid of hemorrhaging? And he gave me some ideas like, let's use this instead. Because when people envision hemorrhaging, that's not a thing they want to see with their accounting. It just gave a bad image. So, I mean, something as simple as that.
Exactly. I mean, we'll review what we call brand assets before we work with anybody, or like start distributing their message to media outlets, because we'll want to make sure that all of those, any sort of context about the business is best representing of what the goals are of the client. So some may be more fun and punchy and playful, and so they can kind of get away with a wider variety of context and content, and some want to be really represented. A lot of our tech clients, it's buttoned up. They have big investors like Mark Cuban, so they have to best represent themselves to be more of that buttoned up professional tone. So it's a constant creative content weaving is what I like to call it, process.
And what's great about it is I love that you're coming to talk about this today, because I don't think small businesses in particular getting started realize the importance of good messaging, understanding how your message is getting across all the social media, even your emails to your clients, even your voicemails you put for your businesses. When people call in, if you don't have a good messaging there, people just hang right back up and not have that confidence that you can do good work for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing how quick we are to absorb information, and we're very quick to judge as a human species. And so we, we tend to have quick moments of making, this is how this person is, or this is how this business is. And I know, because I went one time, or I met them one time.
Yeah.
So in the journey of anything that you're up to that involves any sharing or any sort of public outreach, you want to make sure that your content and your context are very aligned.
Yeah. And what's great is, I think sometimes people don't judge on purpose. They will get a feeling sometimes. They'll read a post, or they'll meet someone at a networking party, and they'll just get a bad vibe based on how they portrayed themselves. And immediately they don't realize, why am I losing this client? Why is this competitor making more business than me? We do it better. But they don't realize it's the way they put themselves forth. Like you said, being buttoned up. How do you show up? Do you show up all disheveled? How did you dress for the event?
Right.
It all matters, not just the public, the pretty posts you put online. I find a lot of businesses will put perfect professional photos online, but then go to a networking event not looking their best.
Exactly. Yeah. Ideally, you're best representing yourself wherever you are.
Yeah.
Online or in person. We are human beings. I would imagine most businesses listening in are run by human beings. We haven't quite ventured into full-on robots running everything yet, but so you're gonna want to put your hair down and feel comfortable living your life. But if you're the higher profile, the more people know you, the more you want to make sure that you're aware of how you're being represented and where. I mean, it's different when you're hanging out at a barbecue with your friends in a backyard versus a networking event. So yeah, a lot of our clients will say, "Hey, I'm going to a trade show. Like, what should I talk about? What should I bring?" Or, of course, TV segments. What should I wear? What should I, how should I best represent myself? So yeah, that's like the front end of PR. The more dark side, which we're venturing and talking about, is what journalists call is PR in general, is to be a dark side, because publicists are paid to help move content, whereas journalists are also paid, but they're pitching from like that creative, thoughtful editorial, whereas a publicist, like, I'm writing content for people that I represent.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times that can come off, especially with the way media has been now seen, and a lot of our messages, like, in the world, is like fake news has gone around, and now things are not real on the internet. And granted, I am not here to say like that is all real on the internet. I'm sure that there's things out there that you have to fact check and get to know, and make a judgment call for yourself. But in terms of PR in general, I think people, like, when there's a PR spin or a PR person involved, sometimes we get a bad rap for not being honest, or not having a client or who we're representing telling the full truth. So that example that I said about that business closing and having a new ownership, like, somebody that may say, "Oh, this has a PR spin to it," would look at it and be like, "Well, no, they're just trying to say, like, this place is closing. They're not just getting a new ownership." Where I would argue that anything that you can do creatively, you can still be honest and forthcoming and, full disclosure, but you can still say it in a way that lands to the audience or to the listener in a way that is, like, beneficial for you and for them. I mean, you don't have to lie to make a spin.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that, because I'm guessing some PR or maybe media journalists do use it and are maybe just not as honest sometimes. But spin doesn't have to equal being dishonest. It's just you putting forth in the best possible light a person or your client, because you want them to be getting as best, how do you say it, representation as possible of this. People make mistakes, like you said. People are human. So if they make a mistake, we can put it forth in a way that shows the public that, hey, they got this. This is who they really are, and put it in such a way that the public understands it, and not criminalize a person for a little mistake in their life.
Right. Or say a public apology. We've seen those plenty of times, especially celebrities. I think we've had, especially given the state of our world, the past couple of years, we've had a lot of clients call and say, hey, a TV reporter showed up at my doorstep and found out that one of my employees had COVID or something. And I just did the interview, and what they said in the interview and how it was then turned and translated was completely just off. The journalist took the information and made it into something that seemed way off the grid from what was really going on. And so then we came in and did a lot of damage control and said, okay, look, like we can't take away that already happened, but what we can do is we can help you like get the train back on the track, get your wheels moving, come up with some creative ideas, let people know this is a healthy business. These are good people. Things are happening. And I feel like the nice part of the terribleness of living in a pandemic for so many businesses was that we were all going through it. It wasn't just like one person or one bar in California. It was, many people were having the same types of struggles. So,
Well, this has been informative, and I know hopefully open the eyes of many small businesses listening in at Savvy, and just people in general who might have thought, how can PR service or help us? How can they get involved with your PR firm, find out more about you? How can they do that?
Absolutely. So we have tons of information on rprfirm.com. You can visit us there on the web, and then all of our social media is linked on our website as well. And then if you want to schedule what we call a discovery call and talk about ideas, let us know about your business. We're always open to those. So put your name in and sign us up for a 30-minute chat, and we'll be happy to let you know if we could help you in any way. And in the meantime, thank you for having me. This has been a really fun, it went by so quick.
I know we could spend all day on this topic. It's such a fascinating topic, and one in which I think people just don't understand the importance, especially for small businesses.
Yeah, well, especially for all of us. Given that, that we want to make sure that we're putting out goodness in the world, ideally.
Absolutely.
Make sure it's honest.
Well, thank you so much, Emily, for coming today and sharing. And everyone, go to www.rprfirm.com. Find out more and find out how Emily and her crew can help you today getting out the proper messaging for your business. Thank you so much, Emily, for coming to Savvy's Forbidden Speech.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Like, subscribe, and share this episode. To listen to more Forbidden Speech or Savvy episodes, visit savvybroadcasting.com. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest, email Christina at lifeunscriptedradio.com.